West Tigers fans, welcome to, it is already round 5 of the NRL season done and dusted. The West Tigers unfortunately going down to the hot running Brisbane Broncos, and coming in from up there in Brisbane is Coach Adel, who's going to break down the game for us with Mr. Bashara as well. First, give us a like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, please. We're actually very close to hitting 1,500 subscribers on the YouTube channel. Very, very close to that. We want to get to 2005 on every social and outlet that we have. So give us at West Tigers Life on TikTok, Instagram, and X. They're all getting up there as well. And what am I missing? Facebook, give us a like on Facebook. That's getting towards the 2,000 mark as well. But without further ado, let's get into talking footy. Reliving this, I'm going to step out. So again, like last week, everyone loved the one-on-one chat. So if you don't like me in terms of my opinions on the West Tigers, be assured I'm about to step out and let these boys let the real experts get into it. I'll bring in my co-host first, Mr. Bashara. How are you this evening?
Yeah, after a long day, mate, I'm okay. I'm trying to get back to parity and focus on this podcast.
All right, and I'll hand it over to you soon. But of course, Adel, thank you so much for tuning in on a Sunday evening. We are less than 24 hours since full time in the game last night. And did you end up attending the game?
Yeah, I was there last night. It's good to be at it one time where it's in reverse, and I went to the game last night and you got to watch it on TV. So it was fascinating. I learned a lot. So that's good.
If you're learning, that's because you got such a big brain and knowledge. That's definitely saying something if you're learning more. But I guess everyone's always learning. Right, Mr. Bashara, I'll let you get this underway, and I'll see everyone else Wednesday night live 8:30. Join us at the Orange Grove Hotel as we not only talk more about this game but also preview the big game against the Newcastle Knights on next Sunday. So be sure to join us there or live as well. But take it away, Mr. Bashara.
Thanks, Josh. Oh, just firstly, Adel, just a very quick one. What was the atmosphere like at Suncorp last night? And were there many West Tigers fans in attendance?
Yeah, Suncorp Stadium, for those that have never been there, it doesn't matter what the crowd sort of seems like there. You always get atmosphere. It's the best stadium in Australia by a country mile. Felt good. I was sitting in a good spot. So we had some good tickets and enjoyed some good hospitality, which was good. There was a little patch of Tigers fans in that, I think you call that the southeastern corner, but yeah, there wasn't that many there. A few patches in and around the ground, but yeah, there wasn't that many fans there yesterday. But yeah, it was an enjoyable game though, to be fair.
Well, mate, we had 12 tries last night, 7 from the Broncos and 5 from us. Look, I'll sort of touch on each try. When I say touch, I'll mention it. If you want to go into any further detail, go through it. And then obviously if you want to expand on any points or any particular moments in the game, just please jump in and we'll go into detail on that. But look, obviously I thought we got off to like the first few minutes. We started pretty well, but then unfortunately Fainu kicked the ball a little bit too deep, which gave the Broncos a 7-tackle set. And then they go down the other end and score with a grubber kick to Jesse Arthurs, which was a little bit contentious. I thought it was a try myself, but the guys and girls that were joining us at the Orange Grove Hotel thought perhaps it might have come off his hand and been a knock on. And it did take a little while to get the video going. And it was quite disappointing to concede a try in the first few minutes. How did you see all that, mate?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I thought it was a clear try. Might disappoint a few people. I actually thought we got, referee-wise, we got the rub of the green last night a little bit. I thought a lot of the penalties, like, this whole crackdown and the high tackles, I think we were the beneficiaries of it last night. There were some moments there, obviously some calls went anywhere, but this is one of those weeks where I didn't really think the referee had an impact on the game from our perspective. I think a lot of it sort of balanced itself out. I think it was more the bounce of the football and just things that could go right for them went right, and they got every ball bouncing their way. But this is the type of team that you don't want to get into a shootout with, and that's the Broncos. Attack-wise, we obviously watched the Storm go around today, and they were pretty impressive, but the Broncos have got the highest firepower in any team in the competition. So the moment you get into a shootout with them, well, you're going to come off second best. So yeah, it was a tough one. We started well. I agree with you. I think defensively, they stripped us of numbers on that edge. Yeah, it was a perfect kick. Even the last bounce of the ball, I think Tito done a really good job to turn and chase. He led the race to ahead of Arthur's, and then the ball just did a left-hand turn and sort of got right into the path of Arthur's. It was a perfect kick from Benny Hunt. You just couldn't stop that try. Like, the honest truth is, there's nothing else we could have done in that situation. I think both our centre and winger sort of were positioned well, almost forced them into the kick. Tito turned, was ahead of Arthur's, and the ball just did if you watch it back, it just does a sharp left-hand bounce right at the end into Arthur's path, like any other bounce, and it's either gone dead or it's in Tito's path. So, yeah, like I said to you, we'll talk about a little bit more of this as we go, because I thought the bounce of the ball went their way so much last night.
Okay, well, I definitely want to get into some of the refereeing with you. I do agree there were decisions that were poor both ways, but I feel that, especially in some of the bigger moments in the second half, look, it might not have changed the result, Adel, but I really believe we were robbed of the chance to get back in the game. A few decisions were awful. We certainly got a couple of weird decisions our way as well. I remember, I think it might have been in the first half, Sione Fainu, dragged the ball back towards him and let go of the ball. It looked like a clear knock onto me. Like it wasn't like all one side. I actually thought he was just quite hopeless. If you look at the stats, again, like I said, we'll go into the heavy stuff later, but the stats are pretty even, as you're kind of suggesting, like the penalties, the six agains, all that sort of stuff. But we'll get into that. And look, obviously, there was a little bit of to and froing after that try from Arthur's, and we fought our way back into the game. The next try came from us, from young Luke Laulii, off a Lachlan Galvin grubber kick just after we got a six again. And my first instinct was to put my hands to my head, like, why are you kicking the ball? And then 5 seconds later, it was all jubilation. What were your thoughts on that play?
Yeah, it's a bit typical of us at the moment. We've got young kids who probably don't have the fear yet in themselves. They're worried about making errors, and at the end of the day, it's the right play at the right time. If it's the pass, if it's a kick, if it's a run, well, that's what you sort of entrust on ball players. And in Lockie's situation, that was kick. But like I said, with previous things that have happened throughout the year, and we can't sort of enjoy the good moments. If that ball goes dead, everyone sort of sits there and crucifies him for kicking the ball on tackle one. So you've got to take the good with the bad, and you've got to understand that that's actually a strength in his game. We'll touch a little bit about his individual performance last night and some of the things he needs to work on. But like I said, in that sort of moment, you just got to take your hat off to him and say that's a brave play on tackle one, and it was the right play, it was the right option, and good job from Laulii to follow through and got us back on the board.
Adel, before I get on to the next two West Tigers tries of ours, it just seemed like it was a specific plan, or from the coaches, to take these early kicks behind the line, whether it was for a lead runner or whether it was early in the tackle count, whether it was first half or second half. We did a number of those kicks. Did you sort of see it that way? Like, because we really haven't seen a deliberate sort of target. So I always actually criticise our team for not, running those plays early in the tackle count. I remember, like, in the last few years, if you watch the Cowboys, they seem to always put that grubber kick through for Nanai, when he's running as a lead runner, and the kick is actually designed for him. And I kind of think, why don't we do it? And it just felt like we were doing it, 4 or 5 times last night.
Yeah, I think that's a trend on that right edge of the Broncos defense with Katoni's obviously Katoni's a very aggressive defender as well. And then Cobbo's really slow to turn. So if you go back throughout the weeks, a lot of teams have put that kick. So I'm guessing the coaching staff have sort of looked into that. I think they didn't expect Lockie to go and tackle, or Galvin to go and tackle one. But again, like I said, it's the correct play in that moment. You'd like to think that they've done their homework and sort of looked into ploys in regards to that. I think Galvin loves that little kick in behind the line. He's very good at doing it. I think sometimes we sort of expect it to be a try every time, or it's not a success. But I think he's, more often than not, he's been able to execute that play pretty well, and we've got good results off the back of it. So, yeah, I think he's pretty good at it, to be honest.
Well, he is. He got one last week, obviously, for Fataape as well against the Warriors. You were mentioning at the start of the show that, like the Broncos got the bounce of the ball. Well, this next try for Turuva, we kind of actually got a little bit of a good break because Adam Reynolds seems to go for the sideline long from the goal line dropout. And then it was a little bit of a sort of heads-up play. It was slightly risky from, Adam to pick up the ball and give it to Terrell May, who threw the ball slightly in front of Buller, and Buller sliced through. I didn't think he did a great job of giving Turuva a run to the line. I thought he could have straightened up a little bit and made it really easy. And I thought Reece Walsh had every chance to get Turuva, but Turuva goes over in the corner. Anything you want to comment on that from a coach's perspective or what we did there? Because it's actually nice to see our guys just take a little bit of a chance again.
Yeah, I'm going to start with the negative because being there at the game, and I watched it back, you don't actually get to see it. Reynolds went for the short dropout because nobody was back. Nobody was on the sideline. It was just poor execution from him. So all he had to do was angle it towards the sideline. We were slow to react. It was actually really, really concerning from my perspective watching them. Like, it was 25 minutes of the game. I think we had just made some interchanges. And literally he was ready, and everybody had their back turned because everybody basically expects the short dropout now. So that's become a staple. But if you do your homework on Reynolds, he actually looks for these kicks quite a bit. So it was pretty lucky from our perspective that he just didn't execute the kick like he normally does. And another, we got lucky. At the end of the day, he went for an all-in play. They were a little bit tired, the Broncos, and I think it was more their tiredness. Obviously, we come up with the play to shift the ball, and as soon as Jareem gets someone sort of a loose line with tired defenders, he's going to slice them open. But yeah, I think to me it was actually common sense. Like, you had to tip the ball on, considering where we were on the field, considering their chase was poor. You sort of reflect on that if they don't do that, and you sort of say, well, how do you not take what's in front of you there? So it's probably what was expected from my perspective, but we did get really lucky. You don't see it on the coverage. If I might be able to provide it to you guys. I've got a bit of an opportunity to get a wide shot. I'll be able to even show you at some stage, Rob, later on. But yeah, we got pretty lucky on that one initially, and then Jareem's just brilliance. You were right as well. He did draw and he did pass a little bit early to Tito, but let me tell you, I am so glad we got Sione Turuva in our team, both in attack and in defence, because he's an absolute world-class finisher. And defensively, he saved about 2 or 3 tries last night, to be honest.
Yeah, no, he's a great finisher, mate. What's he on now? 6 tries or something. He's an incredible player. Obviously, we get the next try, and unfortunately, we were going up in 4s, Adel, instead of 6s. Would have been nice to have been 18-6, but we had a misconversion. It ends up 12-6. Mate, I'm going to let you just talk us through this, because for me, it's probably the best block shape play we've done in 2 or 3 years. Everyone executed well, from beginning with Latu to the finish with Toa. I just thought it was a really, really well done move.
Well, it was a variety to what we normally do. So normally we just run block shape for block shape, but we ran it with a little bit of an extra tip to Jack Bird becoming the ball player.
Yeah.
And that created that little bit of variety. You can tell that was always going to be the case with us, especially listening to Benji early on, that there was always going to be a progression and a development and an evolution in our attack. I think he just didn't want to prioritize that, because what happens is the moment you start to prioritize and we start to sort of focus on our defense, we've sort of shown in the past that these are the type of scorelines we're able to come up with. So I think that's where Benji sort of sits there and goes, how do I balance this so that attack isn't necessarily our priority? Because we can, if that becomes the case, it's probably the wrong week to be able to do it, to be honest. Like I said to you earlier, like, the Broncos are a team you don't want to get, like, the Broncos don't lose games where it's high scoring. The Broncos lose games where it's tight early, low scoring in the first half, and then you can sort of make them, force them into errors. But the moment the game gets into a shootout, and then that's what we did in the first half. But the moment the game started getting into a shootout in the second half, we were no chance. But it was nice shape. Again, really good from Stafford Tower at the moment. He got the ball, he exploded into that gap, and he was unstoppable. But yeah, he's another one that's a little bit frustrating with his ups and downs, isn't he?
Yeah, he's the one centre that's got a bit of penetration. I thought Adam did a lot of good things last night, but fundamentally, Adam can't break the line of his own accord. He doesn't have that individual thrust, and like you think he would with his size and strength, like because he does take a little bit of pulling down. But yeah, Toa seems to be the guy that can crack through the line, and we obviously had someone like Olam that can do the same thing, but he's injured and he's gone. But yeah, but it'd be nice to have a Katoni Staggs or someone like that that can do it consistently all the time. But anyway, look, we sort of went to and fro a bit for the next 10 minutes. And look, this was probably the most disappointing try, Adel, for me, just before half time. It also, I stand corrected. It might, I don't know if it was because I haven't really rewatched the game properly, but it was either before this try or before the 2-point field goal that we just mentioned his name, Katoni Staggs. Looked like he was held on the ground, even though he was on his knees and he offloaded the ball. I can't remember if it was for the 2-point field goal or prior to the try, but I'm thinking, sir, he's held. Like, why is he allowed to pass it? Anyway, that's another moment. That's neither here or there. Anyway, that's the try's been scored and it's done. But I just thought that try from dummy half from Willison was just way too easy. It was really poor
Yeah, it was a
defense.
tough one. I sort of watched that back a couple of times, and I actually think we do it's hard, right? Because 9 times out of 10, you want him to do that because it's a silly play out of dummy half. And I actually think the boys got themselves in a really good position. But his sort of unco-ness allowed him to somehow get the ball down. Like, it was weird, like how you'd naturally dive to go down. I thought Terrell may have done a really good job to put himself in the right position. But it was almost like Willison went for it, withdrew, came back, and then went around again. So it was a little bit uncoordinated in what he did. And that's luck. I kind of feel sorry for the boys. I'm with you in the fact that you don't want to be conceding tries like that from front. One of the front rows at dummy half. Most of the times they're probably going to try doing that. So it's frustrating, it's disappointing, and it was the beginning of the end for us, to be honest. That's the one thing I'll take from last night's game, being at the game and that moment, and obviously the 2-point field goal. We've spent the first 4 rounds of the year enjoying going into halftime with some confidence, and I wasn't very impressed with the body language of the boys leading into halftime. And it's hard to sort of make an estimate or to sort of say this was actually the case, but because I wasn't at the first 4 games, so you don't actually see everything that goes on. But I wonder if there was a lack of accountability within each other last night because of no Luai. That's the one thing he does really, really well, because I just didn't enjoy the way they handled those moments where things just didn't go our way. The Willison try after defending really well, then the 2-point field goal, and I just watched their body language. Like, everything's about making sure a lot of things in rugby league are psychological. We were happy after being up 12-6, conceding a try, 2-point field goal. We walked to halfway. We were happy to not even kick off. I know it's a nothing thing. There was 10 seconds to go, I think it was, 30 seconds to go. We walked to halfway. To me, it was like, no, let's go compete. Let's go kick off. Let's make them carry the ball. Let's get physical again with the last 20 seconds. Let's show some urgency and not say, oh, well, we just lost the first half. We're going away with a mentality of we're disappointed. And that's exactly what it looked like going into halftime. And then I'm sure you're going to touch on it in the second half. It was the worst start to a second half and the worst start to a second half. And we did nothing wrong, Rob, to be honest.
Yeah, look, as a fan, not looking at it from a coach's lens like yourself, as a fan, I just thought that field goal was a fluke because he's kind of hit it in the belly. Hit it in the belly, and like, how does a ball float like that for over 40 meters? Like, it didn't go end over end. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it went through the middle and all that. But I mean, if I was one of the players, I'd be like sort of dropping my shoulders, at least just for the way the ball went over. Maybe like you said, have a bit of energy going back to halfway or jog off the field at halftime or whatever. But anyway, look, it was 14-12 at halftime, and we had no right to be behind. Just even if all that happened, we should have been up 18-14. We didn't kick one goal, and we've been such great. The goal kicking this year has been amazing from our boys in the first 4 rounds, and it wasn't quite on. I commented during the game, Adel, that it was a bit like under eights. Everyone was getting a turn at goal kick. We had 3 different goal kickers in the first 3 kicks. But look, we get to the second half, and look, for me, Adel, again, obviously I'm going to get your opinion, but I feel like these first 2 tries of the second half, and you might disagree with me, there's not much we can do about it. I think you just got to tip out and say, well done, Broncos. Like the 40-20 from Ben Hunt, that led to them getting the ball deep in our territory. And then that nice little set play for Willison kind of caught, a debutant off guard, Tony Suka, who I thought did a really good job in his first game. It was just a really nice set play, and he scores. And then obviously that chip over the top that Adam does for the next try after that, he not only did the bounce go back towards him, it went back towards him at about 8 o'clock. So the ball actually bounced in a way that beat Jareem Buller for Adam Reynolds. Like he didn't have to step in; he could just catch the ball and go under the post. But just run your thoughts over both those tries and perhaps the lead up into that.
Well, I'll go through a few of them, right? So first of all, the 2-point field goal, we'll go back to that.
Yep.
I was negative on our team, but we had 3 guys who literally went to charge that down. So that's a really big tick from an effort perspective.
Correct.
The other thing I talk about is the goal kicking. Now, I could stand corrected. It's not like anyone's going to say anything different. It was weird, Rob, that I was at the game. I got there early. We did not warm up on the field. The Broncos warmed up on the field. We warmed up indoors. I don't know why. It makes no sense to me. Like there's no. It was warm, but it wasn't hot. But even if it was, like you'd want to be out there, it was weird. We did not warm up on the field. We warmed up and we had the opportunity to. That's weird. Second to that, I didn't see anyone practice goal kicking before the game. So these are the little things I'm going to be critical of. Like, how do you not have the detail of Suncorp Stadium, whoever's kicking goals, and we knew, and obviously we realised then that Dewey wasn't kicking because of his groin. Why wasn't Appy outside kicking, out doing goal kicking practice in the stadium and the environment? You've heard all the greatest kickers of all time talk about it's goal kicking is so much more than just putting the ball down on the tee and just kicking it. There's so much more to it. So the detail around that, I think, is a fail. Now, I may have missed them goal kicking, but I don't think I did. But little things count. So there's my little note about our warm up or our lack of warm up outdoors, and then no goal kicking before the game. Then you move on to the start of the second half. They get the ball, they kick it on tackle for Ben Hunt. I think he's like 15 metres in from the sideline. The degree of difficulty is ridiculous. Now, let me tell you something about, you'll know this about Ben Hunt. Ben Hunt's as likely as to kick that. Like, you can't stop that. No, the Buller had no chance. It bounced 1.5 metres in from the sideline and found touch. Ben Hunt's just as likely to put that in row 20 sometimes. He's capable of doing that. So, again, you tip your hat off to him and you go, mate, you nailed it. Good job. We defended the set well. No one got caught, Rob, on that play. That's a trick shot that they've been practicing, that we had no one seen before. Well, we've seen it previously, but from the Broncos, Latu does the right job to get line speed on his man. Suka checks on the dummy half, because if he just sort of fades out, Pakes just dies over, they run the perfect play. They literally run the perfect play and they score. That's why they celebrated it so much. And again, you tip your hat off to them. Then we get to the situation where they score, they kick the goal, they come downfield, they get a late offload, and that's the difference between ours and theirs. Like, that's probably one of the things we need to work on, our offload game. We offload the ball to stale, slow attackers standing still, where other teams are able to offload the ball, and they offload it really, really late. So our defensive liners have retreated basically back 10 metres. They're able to offload the ball, get it shifted, make another 15, 20 metres, get a fast play the ball. It was on tackle 4. Sorry, they got to tackle 4. Tackle 5, they made another 10, 15 metres. We presume Reynolds is going to put that kick in the corner. He gets the chip and chase, like you said. The ball bounced straight into his arms. Like, what do you do? Like, you literally sit there and you stand behind the try line and you go, you know what, boys? We don't deserve to be in this spot, but we are. It's time to rock and roll. It's time to really rip in, build this next 10 minutes of the game. And they did. 6 minutes later, we scored. So how can you fault them? You can't.
It was quite amazing, Adel, because we'd gone from roughly, I can't give you the exact seconds, but like 35 minutes and 45 seconds from the last time we touched the ball to the 46th odd minute of the game. We'd gone 11 minutes without touching the ball in the game, like sort of
they
4.5.
scored Sorry, I'm not cutting you off, Rob. 20 points in 8 minutes.
Yeah, we never touched the ball, though. Like, we never got one set. It was crazy. Ridiculous. It was 11 minutes without touching the ball. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, and like besides body language, like I can't be critical of any of that because I thought our defensive system worked pretty well. Yeah, and we got back into the game. Like it's hard to be critical of our attack because I sort of sit there and go, well, we scored 24 points. When we did have the ball, when we did have good ball attack, we attacked them really well. So it's kind of hard to be critical, isn't it?
Oh, look, when we did our preview on Wednesday night, Adele, and again, this is just me as a fan talking, I thought if we play the Broncos and just go into it defensive minded, like we've got to make sure we stop them and just do our job defensively, they're going to get you at some stage. They're going to score points. I actually wanted us to attack the Broncos and play footy and just be ourselves. You still got to defend anyway. It's not like you're not going to try not to tackle. So I was actually happy with our attitude in attack and that we were trying things and taking a few risks. So I actually didn't mind it because I figure if you just sit back and wait for the Broncos, they're going to score. It's just like, in a soccer game. I mean, if you put 11 men, a goalkeeper and 10 blokes in your own half and just play defensively, like an Italian national team or something, like, the other team's most likely going to jag a goal or a try. And that's how I felt with our team. I was happy that we took the game to them. And, again,
I'm not
I
disagreeing
hear
with
what
you.
you're saying about going with trick shots, like you're going set for set. Like if you're gonna have a fast paced game, you're playing into the Broncos' hands. But I still felt we needed to play a bit of footy, Adele, because I didn't think we're the sort of team that could hold them to 12 or 18 points and win the game. I felt we needed to do what we did with the ball, but we obviously needed to defend them and keep them out a little bit.
I'm not. When I say to you early in the game, like when you get in a shootout with the Broncos, you're inevitably going to lose. I'm not saying it from that you shouldn't be doing that and you shouldn't be attacking them. It's just that's how much firepower they have. But again, ironic to that is you go through every try. I know we're going to go back to them. The Arthur's try was of a kick where the ball bounced in his direction. We defended it well. The Wilson try out of dummy half probably a disappointing one. The little trick shot, again, we defended it well. They just nailed it. Good luck to them. The Reynolds chip and chase bounces his way. If it bounces the other way, Dream gets it. It's going 30 metres because Reynolds is on his own. The Jesse Arthur's try, that's the one I'm really pissed off about, and I'll break that down in a second. And then the Walters try was a poor defensive effort, poor defensive read from Luke Laulili there. That's the experience.
You jammed in needlessly, yeah. Are you there, mate? I think Adele's frozen there. Josh, if you can hear me at all. Or is it me?
I am here, Rob. Not sure what's going on there with Adele.
Okay,
so yeah. Get him back.
Yeah, he's probably talking and doesn't realise his screen's frozen. You might have a little bit of editing to do there, buddy. Just have a look at the timestamp and make your job a little bit easier. So probably a minute from now.
Enjoying the show, nonetheless.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
I'll remove him. See if I remove him.
Yeah, maybe he'll jump back on.
Bring him in. Here he is.
We lost you, buddy, but I'm not sure what you were saying there. But if you might want to start again with whatever you were telling us.
No, I'm just. Where did I end at? Sorry.
I've forgotten to. Let's move on anyway. Let's move on. So
let's go to the final try.
Reynolds scores. Yeah, Reynolds scores the try. He kicks the conversion to make it 26-12, and with that conversion, he's obviously twinged his hamstring and he comes off the field. And as you mentioned not long ago, Sione Fainu scores a try 6 minutes later in the 51st minute to get us back to 26-18. Talk us through the lead up to that and Sione's work to get that ball over the line.
Yeah, individual brilliance, isn't it? We've seen Sione score a couple of them. He did it last year. I think it was against St. George. He scored a try like that. Yeah, that's just something he's got some really good footwork at the line, doesn't he? And he bumped off Kacheski then and then sort of got through the tackle of Reece Walsh and scored. Again, it was that's just an effort play. That they'd be pretty disappointed in that try, but that's one of those ones where you give credit to Sione and his development and his ability to be able to be a live threat close to the try line. So, Yeah, really good one. That you could tell the boys really enjoyed it. And yeah, it got us, like you said earlier, got us back into the game. Like at the end of the day, we were back in the game then.
So that was 26-18, and I actually felt like Willison gave us one back because he'd scored 2 tries. I think Sione beats Willison, but I do stand corrected. But we're at 26-18, and looking back at it today, Adele, I was actually quite shocked. I can't believe that it was 26-18 before the Arthur's try with only like 21 minutes left. At full time, it just felt like we copped a bit of a beating, but we were still in the game to a degree. Like if we could have jagged that next try or kicked a few more goals, we were like right in it. But talk us through the Arthur's try, because you did mention not long ago that you're quite disappointed with a number of things in this. Tell us why.
Yeah, and this is, you're going to enjoy this. I'm going to have a red hot crack at our coaching staff now, because all game we've been doing the same thing. So we have this thing in the scrum where our half holds the ball, drops it, then the winger runs in, feeds the scrum, and we try to get the extra number, right? So most people at home sort of sit there and go, well, we do it, but then we don't run a play. So what the Broncos obviously had come with research. So in that situation there, Reece Walsh is the lock for them, and they've got their winger that sits on the short side. Okay, now they come prepared. As soon as they seen us do it, Reece Walsh would jump out of the scrum, the winger would run into lock. Okay, so what the point of that play for us is we want to get their winger to go to the other side of the field and then get caught out. Unfortunately for us, even though we've been doing it in attack, we haven't prepared for it in defence, because the Broncos did it to us. So they loaded the extra man on the other side. Tito ends up going around and being the A defender. Now, the problem with that is it worked exactly to their favour. They ran at Tito. He had to make the tackle. The next play, they ran straight back at him again, and he got caught in the middle of the field. And I was sitting there live, and I called it. I said they're going to go to Walsh because they had us with not only with numbers, but they had us with someone out of the position. So we ended up with Toa on the wing, Galvin 2 in, and I don't think those two boys realised that there was no winger outside them. So Galvin took the lead line on the back rower, and Walsh just throws a cutout ball. So that's on the coaching staff. You've got to be a lot with the way the structures are of scrums these days. They've got to be a lot more prepared in that situation to know that if we are doing it to teams, well, they're going to probably do it back to us as well. Okay, so in that situation, your right winger shouldn't be going around the other side of the scrum, and I guarantee it won't happen again, because they'll check it and they'll review it as a coaching staff. He shouldn't be having to go around the other side of the ruck to be making tackles. So the noodle's fat and he's out of play, because it was the biggest indicator. And great work by Reece Walsh to ID it, and that's a soft try. That's a poor try. That's a try that, again, the coaching staff and I'm guessing Benji's going to hold some people accountable for that.
Okay, well, contrary to what you said,
that's a breakdown of the system.
No,
of
course.
Of the system.
Contrary to what you're saying there, I do not enjoy you having to bag the coaching staff. Don't get me wrong. You just call it as you see it. Like I'm hated enough by people within the club as it is, mate. So I don't want you. If you're bagging someone, bag them for the right reasons. But yeah, I'd love you to be praising everyone and like you generally do, to be fair. So it's just good to get an honest perspective from you about that. And I actually never looked at it like that. So that's a little bit of an eye opener. But you're right. We seem to run that play where everyone stacks to one side, and I don't think we've actually run a play off it like an interesting play once. We've literally gone a couple of passes out and turned the ball back inside for a hit up, haven't we?
Yeah, and the idea is to do what they did to us. It's to get to whoever that comes from the other side of the ruck to make their tackle. That way it compromises their defensive line. So whoever that guy that switches to the other side of the ruck, but the Broncos, they came prepared. Reece Walsh was the bloke going out. The winger would go into the scrum, and that doesn't compromise the defensive line. So they come prepared, so you got to give them a tick.
All right, well, we'll go on to the 60th minute, mate, when Billy Walters scores a try. Look, talk us through what you mentioned earlier about Luke sort of, jamming in what was like obviously a 2-on-2 situation. We'll talk on the refereeing later, mate. That's one of the worst decisions I've ever seen in terms of a forward pass, but we'll get into detail on that later. But just talk us through the try and what you thought of it.
You're going to hate me in a sec, Rob, by the way. Yeah, that's defense one on an edge there. They would do that drill so many times at training where they sit on that short side and you get in a situation center on center, winger on winger, where the center sort of bounces to his outside, tries to turn the winger inside, and your coach there as a winger to sort of follow what your inside does and trust your inside, especially with that much room away from the try line. And Luke just turns in. That's the play of an 18-year-old still. He's not even. I don't think he's turned 19 yet. So that's the play of a kid that's played a couple of first grade games, and I don't think he's barely played any New South Wales Cup games. That's what you're going to get at the moment. He unfortunately at this stage of his career, and I reckon Benji loves him, but he doesn't necessarily want to play him because we've got Skelton, we've got these other guys. Mate, he's so far away. Don't get me wrong, his attack is outstanding. He carries out of yardage really well. I think he's a dynamic ball runner, but defensively he is so poor, and that's unfair on him as well. But we sort of got no options. He's literally our next best winger after Skelton and Tito, so we've got no choice.
Yeah, well, he missed two. He made 2 tackles. He missed 3 tackles, and I'm guessing that the Cobbo break doesn't even count as a miss. But you are right. He's fantastic out of yardage. He did have a bit of a fumble early in the game with his hands, but he ran for 140 meters, which is double what Fata Ape did last week. I think Fata Ape had 70 last week, so he certainly did his job carrying the ball, and it's only his 3rd or 4th start. So you're right. He's first reserve in terms of our wingers, but he's just got to get game time, Adel, and he's got to learn. And look, if the game wasn't over at that stage, obviously when Shibasaki scored, it was certainly over in the 70th minute when he went over. Do you have any thoughts about that try or any memories or anything you want to pass on about that?
No, I mean, that's disappointing. Jerem's got to catch that at the end of the day. Like, that's his job. He's got to catch that. He knows that. Do you want me to go back to the forward pass, Rob?
If you, I'm telling you now, I'm always going to love you, Adel. If you try and tell me that because Cobbo ran 5 meters forward after he passed it and somehow that pass is backwards, I'm still going to love you, but I'm just going to tell you, you are 100% wrong. If you try and give me that absolute bullshit excuse.
Not, it's a forward pass. It's not my point. My point is,
okay.
I'm actually a big believer. I'm actually a big believer in those situations. Like, I don't really care whether they call them or not, because that's like, besides the ones where they're throwing him long ball, but technically speaking, you can make an argument. That one wasn't, but I've seen a lot of those where you think they go forward, but they don't. That one actually looked like it definitely went forward. But in those situations where it's 2-on-1, as a coach, and I know I'm probably saying this from a coach's perspective, I'm sort of sitting there going, look, I'm not going to worry about a forward pass on a 2-on-1 that's a 99.9% try. Like, I'm sort of sitting there going to go back to the other one. And where it annoys us is, I think we feel like that if that was Tito back on the inside to Uppy, they probably call it forward. That's where I think it annoys us. But we've seen it, mate. It's common. It's actually common that these passes get let go. I think there's a lot of them. I'm live at games and I sort of see these passes where it's 2-on-1 with the fullback, and you just know it. Like, it just looks forward. And I'm saying, I'm agreeing with you. It's forward pass, but I sort of sit there in these situations and I go, I don't even care, because don't put ourselves in that position.
No, look, I hear you, and it should be a try all the time. What I'm trying to justify, and there's no way I come across looking like anything but a sook, and it's wrong to say, and I don't care if it's wrong to say, because I'm going to say it. I question the referee's integrity there 100%. I'll tell you why. I will forgive the touch judge because the touch judge is probably 4 or 5 meters behind Cobbo, and he's not directly in line. Referee Kennedy, or whatever the hell his name was, is perfectly in line with both Walters and Cobbo. The ball almost falls out of Cobbo's hand, and Cobbo's reaction is like, what have I done? And if I was to read the referee's mind, it's like, you know what? It's 32-18. It's Saturday night, Suncorp, really nice crowd. Let's just let play on. It should have been a try anyway. I'm just going to pretend I didn't see it go forward. And that absolutely shits me to death, Adele. And there's no point getting worked up about it. But there's, like I said, there's 20 minutes left. Who knows? Why can't we go 70 metres from the scrum and make it 32-22 with a kick to come and game on? Our team hasn't given up all year. Like, why does that moment get taken off us? And as I said at the start of the show, we might not have won the game, Adele, but the opportunity to win the game was taken off us. And he had more howlers in the game, mate. And again, nothing that affected the result. Billy Walters knocking the ball on from dummy half. Everyone in the world saw it except the referee. You know, little things like that. And even the afters pass that you talked about, you know, blaming the coaches. I mean, I don't even think that ball went backwards out of the hands from Reece Walsh to Arthurs. I mean, it was line ball, so I can live with it because lots of line ball passes go. But when the ref's right in line, mate, and he chooses not to call it, I can't accept that. It makes me think.
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with
Yeah,
you because in the first half, when Uppy throws that pass and Lality drops it anyway, that wasn't forward. The replay clearly shows that pass wasn't forward, but then the Reece Walsh one on the Arthur's pass, I said that live. I said I thought that was worse than the Uppy pass. I still think they're both okay, but if you're going to call one, you got to call the other. Like, I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing with you on that
yeah.
at all. But
You go on.
sorry, you go.
No, I was just going to say, like, it's, you know, we when I say we take this seriously, we're just passionate about our teams. We're trying to get off the bottom of the table. And I hear what you've said in the last few weeks about we need to be relevant to get those calls and all that. And I totally agree with you because I've never looked at it from that perspective. And you're so right in that. But we may as well be WWE, mate. If this is just all about entertainment and we're not taking things seriously, I just don't get how you can call a forward pass like that. And then you want to go further. Like, we obviously this isn't in my run sheet in terms of what we're discussing, but if you go to the Royce Hunt no try, like they're looking for a driver. Yeah, but we hardly ever call a driver number one. And then having a good look at it today, Adele, he's about to ground the ball. He's 3 inches from grounding the ball. And may God strike me down if I'm lying, mate. Fainu Bole puts a finger or two on him. He doesn't even put much pressure. It's not like he shoved him in the back to press him down to the ground. So they'll nitpick and look for something to take a try off us, you know, even if it's for entertainment's sake.
I agree.
And make us feel like
I agree.
crap. But then something that's blatantly obvious, it's 2 meters away. Again, there's no point getting worked up because I know he saw that. I know he saw that. I know he knows it went forward. And I wish there was a Graham Annesley press conference where someone asked the bloke. Because, again, if he was in the wrong position, even a metre either side of Walters and Cobbo, you can say, you know what, he wasn't directly in line. He's huffing and puffing. He's trying to keep up with the guys. I get he might have missed it. There's just absolutely 0% of an excuse anyone can give me or can change my mind as to how he did not rule that forward. It's the most forward pass I've seen. And I reckon if for the rest of my life, I will never, ever forget this moment in terms of how bad that forward pass was. It's an absolute howler and it's unacceptable.
2 things on that. One is I agree with you. And to make it, to show you the difference, right? How many times have we seen, how many articles or how many posts did you see on social media questioning the Latrell pass on Friday night? So many. It was talked about so much on social media. You may not have seen this, but it was talked about so much. Was it forward? Was it not forward? Nobody mentioned the Cobbo to Billy Walters one. That's one. 2, I'll tell you the other problem I got. And I don't really work for an NRL club anymore, so I can say this. The problem I've got is blokes like, you know, the high-profile referees that sit in the video referee box or the bunker,
like Ashley Klein.
They're a blight on the game because they think they're better than the other referees. So what they do is they look for things. You see it all the time, and it's like they're, and don't forget, these guys all get judged. So it's almost like, don't forget, and they're competing against each other. So you want to sort of find a way to get another referee to make the mistake. But when Ashley Klein, Grant Atkins, I'll say them, I'll drop all their names. Who's the other one? There's one more senior ref.
Would it be Adam G?
No, not Adam G. We can't talk about Adam G. He's close to the Bashara family.
No, I know he is. But I mean, when you
I'm
say
joking,
senior,
I'm
he's
joking.
been around for so long.
No,
I mean,
who is the other one? Who's the other one? There's another one. Anyways, when they're in the they're in the bunker, mate. They're doing everything they can. Jared Sutton's the other one.
Okay.
Mate, they are doing everything they can to get involved in the game. Everything they can. It's those 3. They non-stop get themselves involved in the game on video referee calls. I reckon those three have got the most record for overturned decisions and nitpicking and finding little things. It's pathetic and it's embarrassing. And yeah, the Royce Hunt one, I'm sitting there going, oh, they're going to rule he's going to drop it. Like, I wasn't even like, why are you even looking for that? Why are you looking for something? And Gus Gould goes on about this. They look for things that no one else sees. He calls them the highway patrol that sit on the highway patrol police officers. I love when he described it. He says that they're like the highway patrol officers that, you're driving by yourself at night, you're going 65 in a 60 zone. No one cares. You're not hurting anybody, but they ping you and they get excited about it. That's what
I
video
haven't heard
referees
that
do.
one.
That's what they
I've
do.
never heard that
Like,
one
no
before.
one else is looking for what you're looking for, and then you're finding a reason to disallow a try there. It's
Yeah, look,
ridiculous. Absolutely
again,
ridiculous.
I've only just watched it, not long ago. Having watched the game at the Orange Grove Hotel with the boys, I saw it from side on, and I really didn't pay attention to what you'd call a head-on shot, even though that shot was kind of from behind the dead ball line, behind the post kind of angle. Like, it was still on a bit of an acute angle. But from the sideline, I thought, oh, well, Fainu must have pushed him down. Like, gee, that's a rough penalty. Like, but, if it's a penalty, it's a penalty. So be it. But when I saw the head-on shot, I'm like, man, he's barely put a finger on him. Like, what are you doing? You're really going to take that off him? Like, there's
I also
a
don't
hundred
think
other
it's
tries.
Rob, I also don't think it's the rule. Like, that's the other thing. I actually tried to ask about it today at our game. I said, isn't the rule you can't touch the opposition?
Correct. I think you're right. Because how many times do we see a teammate push his teammate forward, or not to get pushed back in a tackle?
Exactly. So I actually that was the other thing I was trying to clarify is I'm pretty sure you cannot touch the opposition player. Not you can touch your own player.
I
So
think you're
that
right
will be
because
one.
yeah. I was going to say, do you remember back in the old days, Adele? I hope that I'm not that much older than you, but remember the Parramatta flying wedge?
You are older than me, Rob, by the way. A lot.
Okay, I know. Okay, I'll buy my. That's how it is, I guess. But do you remember the flying wedge from Parramatta?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen it or heard of it? Well, you're pushing your own teammate. You're not pushing an opposition player.
Yeah, it's mate. As I said, the thing without the Graham Annesley thing now, you don't get clarifications on that, but the club will. But yeah, look, the whole club thing is another thing. Like, I know you're not going to like me saying this because I do defend everybody, but mate, I feel sorry for the club. I feel sorry for everybody.
No, I do.
Little things last night, like I was watching on the sideline. I know it's not that big, but like, just resources, like little things. We are so skinny, and I know a lot of information that obviously other people aren't privy to, but like, we have no money. We're working on a different budget to everybody else. I know this doesn't feel good to hear as fans, but like, I sort of watched today. I was watching, so I do watch the game a little bit differently to everybody. I'm looking at the Melbourne Storm sideline. They got like 12 staff on the sideline. Last night we had, besides the people that have to be there, so your doctors and whatnot, and your physio, and your blue shirt, yellow shirt. Like, we've got Benji, who was on the sideline, Benji, Billy, and Shannon Gallant was actually with the radio last night, because that was weird, actually. He's never normally with NRL, so normally it's Aaron Payne on the sideline, but he wasn't there last night, so I'm guessing he would have been back home because of Cup today. But just so many things that I sort of sit there and go, are we providing our NRL team the full resources? And I know the answer is no, and that's because the club doesn't have the money to spend it. Like, it was funny, I talked to you about before the Dolphins game about travel, and because we don't want to travel early. I heard the Raiders spent a whole week. They lost anyway. They spent a whole week in North Queensland before the North Queensland game. The Cowboys played in Sydney. Did they play in Sydney? The Cowboys over the weekend?
Yeah, they played Friday night.
They played Penrith. Yeah, they're staying in Sydney for the next 5 days, and then they're going to Perth early. Like, this is the difference in resources in regards to how you can prepare a game. And a lot of people have commented that we've got a soft draw starting the year, but I sort of went over our draw last night again, and we've got mate. Logistically, our draw is horrendous to start the year. We've gone to Brisbane now twice, We go back home, travel to Canberra, to Newcastle next week. We spend 2 weeks at home again, but then we do Brisbane again. We go away 2 games in a row again. We go Magic Round, and then we go to Melbourne. Like, it's not considering so that's 5 out of the first, I think, 9 games or 10 games. You're traveling. You know, you're talking about the Dolphins are in Brisbane. The Dolphins, who play in a city where there's only 3 teams, are not leaving Brisbane for 7 weeks. Like, logistically, it's a tough start to the season, and people don't understand this. That I know you're just playing football, but when you got young blokes and you're a new team and all you're doing is traveling, and as a club you don't have resources to be able to say to a team, like that week we play Magic Round. If I'm coaching and I'm at a club where you've got a lot of money, you know what I'm saying? I'm saying we're not going to Sydney, we're going straight to Melbourne and we're going to prepare. Or this week, playing in Brisbane, you just go to Newcastle and prepare for next Sunday. I don't know. There's just so many things that I feel like the club is a little, doesn't have the same resources as other teams. And yeah, it's tough. I'm not making excuses and these are not whatnot, but just watching last night, I sort of felt sorry for everybody. Like I was sitting literally above our bench, and you just look at the sideline and you look at their sideline and their sideline. I know it's their home game, but they've just got everything. They've got everything there. They've got all the resources. We don't. We got nothing. It looked like we had nothing, and it's common. And then I've obviously watched a lot of other teams and what they've got. Like I watched the Melbourne Storm today, and I was watching their sideline and sort of the resources they've got and all their staff and what they travel with. And I know our club is different. We got restrictions on who travels. How many players are allowed to travel, extended squad. I think Jerome went last night as the club captain, but if you're not club captain, you don't travel. These are all things that affects your team camaraderie and team morale and all that sort of stuff. You watch Penrith. I know Penrith aren't going well at the moment, but when they travelled, Cleary was out injured. He travelled. Dylan Edwards travelled. Brian Tyre travelled. They stick together as a squad. They've got all their staff travel. I know for us when we were NRLW, away games it's minimum. Whatever the NRL gives us, that's who travels. Home game, you've got an extra 4 or 5 staff. And it's little things, but these are at NRL level. These are massive things. So, yeah, there's a lot more to it from club perspective. And there's a lot more to go before we can get there. But the boys have been doing a job for us, and I think as fans, that's all we can ask for.
So just to be clear just to be clear on that accommodation stuff, you did say to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the NRL pays for the night before the game and the night of the game, and then any extra nights the club has to pay for. So literally, we don't put our hands in our pockets at all. We don't have any money. We just do whatever the NRL give us and just work on that sort of.
Correct, and they give you a necessary number as well. So the amount of personnel that are allowed to travel. So they say on game day, this is all you need, and anything extra to that, you've got to pay for. So I can't tell what it is at NRL level. It might be a little bit more than it was at NRLW level, but at NRLW level, for example, it was 24 people can travel. That's who's covered. So if you had anyone else, if your physio was the orange shirt, for example, okay, but you need a physio on the sideline as well. Like the physio can't go off the field and treat someone during a game. So you've got to have that extra person. So if they're not, if that person is different to your orange shirt, well, you can't have that person. So there is a restriction on what the NRL provide, and then everything else is at your own expense. So yes, accommodation is night before, night after for NRL. NRLW, it's not even that, it's night before, and if you play late, there's like time slot thresholds. So depending on what time you play, so same as NRL. If you play at 3:00, I think NRL game away, I think they put you on the last flight home. But it sort of depends. But yes, we don't spend extra. I know for a fact.
Josh, did you want to jump in and say something, mate?
Yeah, I was just looking up the rule, the Pole push. So the only rule book I can find is 2020. So I don't know if it's changed, but there's a lending weight rule. So it says it is permissible for a player to lend weight to a teammate in possession in order to avoid losing ground. It is not permissible for the player lending weight to impede a defender from making the tackle. Now, you could argue impeding a defender from making the tackle. You could probably argue The referee will take into account any momentum the tackle has already generated. I would argue that Paul Bolle did not impede a defender when he was
I agree.
doing that.
I
He
totally
literally, like
agree.
you said, he
Right.
laid a tiny little, it was like a pat on the back from Bolle. But
Exactly.
That's the rule as of 2020, unless it's changed in the last
It's
5
definitely
years.
changed, Josh, but it's not changed. So they don't change the rules. This is I'm not going to say stupidity of the NRL because you also want to compliment them on always being progressive. But what they do is they put amendments to rules, and they create that throughout the years and whatnot. So one of the rules, for example, and not many people know this, is when you are being driven back in defence, once your teammate actually puts your hands on you and it looks to help you, the referee will call held. So that's the little bit of a difference, and that's where it's a little bit hypocritical in that Fainu situation because you're actually allowed to do it. So I'm sure the club will get an explanation. We're not going to hear it because they don't do the Graham Annesley thing anymore. But yeah, it's a fascinating one. Again, if we were a team that's relevant, we'd probably be talked about more in the media as well.
A random one, Adel, is the feet up rule still a thing? So if you're getting driven back and you lift your feet off the ground and you count as held, is that still a rule?
If both feet are off the ground, both feet are off the ground.
It's a wonder players don't try that more often when they're getting driven back towards the try line or a sideline. They don't lift their legs up off the ground.
Yeah, you're in all systems go
Semantics.
trying to protect yourself from the situation. Yeah, like some players have done it. I've seen some players do it.
You preempted my question, Josh, because I was going to ask Adel just going back to last.
I'll step away.
No, that's fine. That's fine. But you're exactly right. Going back to last week, guys. I mean, what Josh is saying there. I mean, basically off the first kick of the game, Buller gets driven back 10 meters into the in goal. Like, doesn't the ref at some stage have the right to say it's out of control? He's held. Like, can you carry a bloke?
No,
100 meters back in play. If so.
Yeah, I remember that one. So, Rob, what happened there was momentum was still in the tackle, plus Buller's feet were stepping. So once both feet are off the ground and he no longer has the ability to move, the referee will call held. But if you think about it like someone getting dragged and their feet are dragging along the floor as well, that's still considered part of the momentum of the tackle. So,
fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, mate. Look, we've digressed a lot, but I mean, I'm only going to touch on this because we scored the try, but we never spoke about Toa's last try in the 75th minute, which was a nice little bit of play down the short side, and Adam just using his smarts to get Toa into a gap and in for a try.
Yeah, I think that's a nice little move down the short side. I think it's also a little bit to our point is if you go at the Broncos can give those tries up. That's the type of tries they are. They'll give up. That's a defensively a lot of people are going to sit there and might talk well of the Broncos at the moment, but their offense and their class across the field is very evident. But they've got a lot of work to do, and defensively they've got to do that. It was nifty work from Adam down the short side, wasn't it? And just a little flick over his over Shibasaki's shoulder, I think it was, and Toa scores untouched. So I think that was an indication of the Broncos were fragile and were there for it to be beat, but they also got all the bounces of the ball their way, like literally everything. I'm not going to say literally everything, but all the big moments, literally the ball bounced in their direction. And we didn't and we haven't this year. And that's the thing I'm really proud of with the boys. Like, the Ben Hunt 40-20 this week bounces to them. Last week, Uppy's one against the Warriors bounces just outside the 20. Like, just little things like that are not bouncing our way this year, are they? And we are still competing really well. But yeah, I will say this, Rob, as well. I think individually there was some performances last night. There was some big moments. Alex Twal's knock on. That's a poor error. That was a big moment in the game as well. I was really disappointed with that. Just come back on the field, mate, at a first grade level. Other teams are not doing that. That used to happen a lot in games, especially early in the season. It does happen maybe round 1 and 2, but you can't be making those errors. I thought last night was a very educational game for Lockie Galvin. I think he needs to start learning that he needs to start creating as much as he wants to create for himself and for others. He can also become he can watch a little bit of what Cody Walker does. I think Cody Walker's one of the better 5'8" in the game because of the fact that he ID situations where he turns into a runner. And there was a couple of times last night where I think Uppy had the ball, I think Buller had the ball, and Latu had the ball where I think they were looking for Lockie to just become almost an extra runner off them, and he sort of held back and wanted the ball. I wasn't very happy with his performance last night. I thought Latu was really good in that first half. I think your mate Royce Hunt had a much better impact. I think that's probably the better way to use him as well in the game. And the back end, sort of midway through the second half, probably a good time to use him. I think big compliment to Benji on that. I think that's actually on that note. I don't know if Benji's doing the interchanges. Actually, I was watching pretty carefully last night. It looked like the interchanges were not being done from the sidelines, and Benji didn't have a headset on, so it may not have been Benji doing that. Have I lost you guys again?
No, Rob's frozen Adel. Now we've lost Adel. Okay, going good. 1 hour in. Righto, we have Rob. Now we've lost Adel. You there, Rob?
Yeah, well, you got a timestamp there, mate. So you got a bit more editing to do. Yeah, I'm here, but Adele's almost back in. No, he's logged out again.
It's all right. We'll bring him back in. But
what was he saying? What was he saying, Josh? Because I've just forgotten.
You only missed about 10 seconds. You weren't out of it.
Yeah, I know. But what was he talking? He was talking about Lockie Galvin, wasn't he? He was talking about Lockie Galvin. That's okay.
Here he is.
Okay. Hopefully his video's in sync now.
We got you, Adel.
Yeah, you're not going to believe it, boys, and I do apologise. I only just realised I wasn't using Wi-Fi the whole time. I was just on my phone data.
That's all right, mate. Well, your video was out of sync for a while, but it's all good. You were just. I got cut off, obviously, mate. But you were just telling us about Lockie, how you'd like him to be a bit more of a runner to the other blokes, and you were saying how good Latu Fainu played last night. Just tell us a bit more about Latu.
Yeah, I thought he straightened our attack a lot better. I still think they need to find that combination. I think he's going to be out for 11 days, so he'll miss the Newcastle game now with his HIA. I think that's part of his game. He's got to improve his tackle tech. He gets his head in the wrong spot quite a bit. He was rattled a couple of times last night, so that's something he needs to improve on. But I think moving forward, he definitely, it's interesting. Rob, you and I talked about interchange last week. The Bulldogs this week carried. Who'd they have on the bench? They had Kurt Mann. They had and Blake Taff on the bench this week. So I think potentially we will carry Talon, Latu, I think Sione, and who's the other middle forward we've got? We've got one more middle forward.
Hunt.
And Royce Hunt. I think that'll be our bench, to be honest. I think we sort of don't have an option. Well, no. Well, Jack Bird will be the other bench. I think Royce Hunt might miss out.
Well, yeah, I think I might have got cut off, Adele, before you mentioned this. You were talking about Royce Hunt. He comes on in the 47th minute and comes off in about the 66th minute or thereabouts. So we got 19 minutes out of him. I thought what he did was quality. So I'm not bagging him in any way, shape, or form about quality. What he did, I thought he provided impact. Is it the right way to use him though? Not playing him. I know we played Sione Fainu in the first couple of games, the last 20 minutes. Like we kept him as a fresh man. This wasn't quite the fresh man thing. I think he came on when Latu copped that head knock. And then he came off again, and I think Terrell May came back maybe in the last 14 minutes or so. But I don't know. Sorry?
Sione came on early. Sione came on for
Bolle in the 24th minute.
Or for Fanua, sorry, yeah. So he came on for Fanua.
Yeah.
And at the same time when Talon come on for Uppy. So no, that would have been pre-planned in the rotation. because then, yeah. So that's to me just that was always going to be the plan. And then what they did was they put they took Twal off and put Jack Bird to lock and put Suka on. So that was the rotation that they went with last night.
No, I
The
get
only
that. I'm
reason,
just saying it seems like we're experimenting with how we use Hunt. So like we've
absolutely.
kept him fresh for the second half this week. We played him a bit before halftime and taken him off shortly after halftime. Do you think there's a world where we see? I know he provides a lot of impact. Don't get me wrong, but is there a world where he starts the game for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then finishes the game for 15 minutes? Like I'm still. I just I'm not a look. I have no idea about footballers and what they're capable of and what they're not. I just don't get that he's only doing 19 minutes. I can't see why we can't get because he's good when he does things. He's pretty good. I wasn't happy with his game against New Zealand, but all his other games have been pretty good. Why are we only getting 19 minutes? I just don't get it, Adele. Please enlighten me, educate me.
Tough one, but yeah, you know what? As I said, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to see when everybody's back. When Samuel is playing that left edge role, what they do, because like I said to you, I think Latu has to play. I think he's got to come on and be our 13. If you're not going to play him in the halves, which we're not going to do because Jerome and Galvin are our halves, I think he's got to come on and play that 13 role. The Bulldogs do with Kurt Mann, that we've seen teams do in the past, with really good halves that can't sort of play. Dylan Walker, made a difference to Parramatta on the weekend, coming on playing that role. I think that's the role Latu's got to play for us at the moment, which leaves you Talon to still be there. Because I think Benji wants to play with two hookers. I think there's two parts to that. I think it's also the fact that that Uppy's got another 2 years under his belt, or he's got this year and next year. So I think they don't want to burn him out for 2 years. They want to get maximum they can out of him. He's 31 years old now as a hooker. It's a little bit different. And then, sorry, I went blank. And then Sione, I think, has gone to the top of the queue behind the two starting front rowers. And Jack Bird's got to be there. So where does that leave Royce Hunt? I don't know, Rob. That's why Benji gets paid the big bucks.
Well, I'm not doubt. I love Sione. I like what he provides. I mean, he has some issues in some games, but I will disagree with you. I think when everyone's available, I think if they do go down the path of playing both Latu and Talon, which I'm still unsure of, but if they go down the path you're suggesting, I believe that Sione Fainu would be the one that misses out, and it'll be Jack Bird and Royce Hunt that would join those two. But again,
it may be. You're right. I mean, we don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what they come up with.
It would be more feasible. It would be more feasible what you're suggesting if Royce Hunt could play bigger minutes. Because if you can rely on someone playing 40 or 50 off the bench, then you can carry a couple of lighter blokes. But I don't know, man. It's a tough one. Like you said, that's what Benji's paid for. Any other sort of major points? I think you said there were quite a few points you wanted to mention. You've spoken about the Alex Twal drop ball, which obviously led to the Arthur's try. And that was devastating because we'd actually defended 3 or 4 sets on our line in a row and finally got a turnover and then to lose it on the third or fourth tackle. It wasn't a bad pass. I think it was just Alex looking to see who was gonna hit him. I don't know. He just took his eyes off the ball, really.
It was a fundamental error. It's unacceptable. It's not good enough, basically.
Yeah. Any other big moments in the game, mate? That like from the first half or second half that you want to mention, or we all good with that?
I think we covered it all. Like I've said in previous weeks, now it's building the next little block. This is a big game against Newcastle. We've got Newcastle, Parramatta. We have Dolphins Magic Round. Is that who we got, Rob?
Para, I think. Oh, Magic Round. I'm not sure. I think the batting order now is Newcastle. Who's after that? Newcastle, Para. Is it St George and then Cronulla? So I look. I don't want to mock us, Adele, but I think if we're healthy, we can win 3 in a row. I genuinely believe that.
We got Knights. We got Knights, Parramatta, Sharks at Leichhardt, St George. Oh, mate, we can win all 4 of those. I don't rate the Sharks. I think they're flat track bullies. I think if you take it to them, especially at Leichhardt, and we showed that last year, we're going to enjoy being back at Leichhardt. I know the boys will, so they're going to love that. Yeah, this is a big game this week. If we can beat Newcastle, I'm okay.
Yeah,
But,
I'm with you. What do you think of Benji's presser, mate? It only went for 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah, he was direct, straight to the point. There wasn't much to be said. I think he was right. He sort of sounds a bit like us tonight. Like, how do you almost tip your hat off to the Broncos and just got to go, we did a lot of good things.
Mate, if I'd have taken my wife out to dinner and a movie and came back and scored the full-time scoreline, I would have said the Broncos pumped us, and I would have been, upset, thinking, back to our old ways. Having watched the game live, I felt really proud. I know it sounds crazy, not proud because the Broncos didn't get 50, but actually, I know you rate the Broncos, mate. I'll judge them when they get Ezra Mann back and they're at full strength and see how they're going. I still think they're a bit hit and miss, except for Luke's try that opened our scoring. All the tries came down their left side. I think their left edge is awful. They've got a lot of work to do. But our boys, look, the only difference for me this week is the first 4 rounds, Adele, when I'm picking 3-2-1s, I've really struggled because there have been 7, 8 really good players. I don't think anyone from the West Tigers had a bad game, but I struggle. Like, I'm Terrell's going to be in there. I think Toa was really good, but I'm really struggling to find like a third best player. How did you see it like live? Because watching a game live is totally different to TV. Who would you say were our best players in your opinion?
Yeah, it's tough. I actually didn't think that was Terrell May's best game. I think they made a good point to go after him, and I thought they did a good job of that. Yeah, tough one. I thought Jack Bird played well again. I think Latu was really good while Severi was on the field. I love what Tito's doing. Everything Tito has done, don't worry about numbers. Everything Tito's done has been quality for us. Yeah, tough one with a 3-2-1. I don't really have one this week, to be honest with you, Rob. You've sort of sprung me on that, but
no, that's all right. I didn't mean to spring. You're helping me, mate, because I'll probably give Turuva 1 point because I'm really undecided about the 1 point. Just on Terrell May, I hear you. He wasn't as dominant as he's been in other matches, but I will say one thing. I think he got the better of Payne Haas, or we did a better job on Payne Haas than they did on Terrell. I thought Terrell played better than Haas. I know Haas is the best prop in the world, mate. I think Carrigan and Willison outplayed Payne Haas.
That's a little bit. I thought that's the thing, right? We did a really good job on Payne Haas, and that was, you could tell. So every time he carried the ball the first time, we'd swarm. So 3 defenders, they'd break the system, and it was like, and as soon as whoever the person he was running at, that person actually accelerated towards him. So you could tell there was a big focus on it. But yeah, look, I don't think the middle of the field sort of had too much of an impact on the game. I think, typically for us, we struggled that, we just don't have that. We don't have men. That sounds bad, but we don't have physical 150 game men. Too many of those, like a lot of those consistent, like even someone like Shibasaki, right? Shibasaki's been playing grown age football for 5 years. He's a grown man now playing in the centres. We've got kids. That's the difference. And that's just the difference of what our squad. And you could tell that physically last night at the game, that at times when even our middles were carrying the ball, like Terrell got whacked a couple of times, but he'll go the whole game. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, he carried the ball 21 times for 140 meters, but that also tells you that he didn't have the same impact with his physicality and his ability to carry the football. He's just high volume. That was what he was last night. So yeah, mate, they're a very good squad. I agree with you. They're a little bit hit and miss, but if somehow that they are there at the back end of the year and everybody's on song, they're going to be tough. They're going to be tough to beat.
Look, again, I might be biased, Adele, but we've got a similar scoreline last night with our game, Brisbane versus West Tigers, compared to today with Melbourne versus Manly. If I'm being
apples and oranges,
mate, I know, but I'm being perfectly objective. If I'm a Manly fan, I'm devastated. I think that was awful. I know they showed some glimpses in attack. They just looked like they were going to get scored on every time. When you look at our game, Sure, they got 7 tries, the Broncos. I didn't think they were going to score every time they got the ball, though. That's the difference. I felt like our result is more respectable. I know you're saying Melbourne is probably like the top dog and maybe the best offensive unit, but in your mind, and maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, Brisbane are pretty up there in terms of that attack too, compared to Melbourne. I don't think there's much difference attack-wise.
I'm going to call it early. Brisbane's the only team that can beat Melbourne, but mate, Melbourne full strength. They're another level in this competition. Like, you think about last year's grand final and how far apart them and Penrith were, and obviously Penrith have lost. Melbourne have got better. They're so far in front of everybody else. It's not funny. Don't worry about when they lose little games here and there. You watch them today. They are a well-oiled machine. They've got, their spine is just out of this world, really good. I mean, we had Harry Grant. Remember Harry Grant? What was he? Not 20 years old. Remember what he did for our side? He nearly took us to the finals. He's, and I'll tell you what, watching Melbourne frustrates me because we've got to, this is the issue I've got with everything we do. We need to create everything off our 9, but we don't do it. I don't know. I'm not an NRL level coach, so I sort of shouldn't say too much. But you watch Melbourne, you watch Harry Grant starts everything. Everything they do with shape starts off the back of Harry Grant's little creativity out of dummy half, play here, play there, and then all of a sudden they're so engaged in their rucks, the other teams, that all of a sudden it gets to Hughes and Munster and they're stripping teams apart. Anyways, that's the Melbourne Storm. They're a different beast.
Adel, next week I'm going to be posing questions from the Patreon group. Okay, they're going to put questions to you about what you thought of the game and looking forward and what have you. I just want to ask you, I don't remember all the questions, and apologies to guys in the Discord. If I'll tell you privately what's happened to me this afternoon, guys. I spent 5 hours in hospital with the son, so it hasn't been a great afternoon. I didn't really get to go back and get all your questions, but I remember one question, Adel. What changes would you be making this week if you're Benji, number one? And number two, how would you be looking to play Newcastle next week, given that they've come off a 20-0 loss tonight?
Well, they're going to have a few injuries, which I think they'll lose their hooker. I think Phoenix Crossland will get suspended for a trip. Saifidi done his calf. Who was the other one that got injured early in the game? I think Schiller, he'll be gone. He failed a HIA, so he's gone for 11 days. So they're going to be short-handed. We've played them 5 weeks ago. First of all, no changes. Latu comes back in. I mean, Luai comes back in for Latu. Samuela comes in. Suka comes out. It's just back to how we started the year, basically. That'll be our team.
Skeleton comes in for Luke.
Skeleton comes in for Luke. He didn't get named this week, but he did train, so I'm guessing he'll come back in. Mate, it doesn't change. It's Ponga's your indicator. Minimise Mazu out of trouble. I think Brayley will play hooker. That means now next week. It's Ponga. It's Ponga and Ponga only. The Bulldogs showed you the blueprint today. It's just complete, a lot better. Kick to the corners, good kick chase. Indicator on Ponga. Make sure wherever he is, there's an extra number. They did a good job to kick to Mazu and they isolated and they made sure they just kicked to him non-stop tonight with Karaz. Non-stop kick to Mazu, and that's what you got to do.
Mate, I said to you a few minutes ago, I was proud of the effort. I know the boys that watched the game with us at the Orange Grove were proud of the effort. Do you feel the same way? I know you're disappointed with a few little moments, but overall, are you proud of the sort of team we are this year?
Yeah. I'm proud of it. The hard part for me was I normally go to games, as you know. So that was the first game I've attended. So I don't know whether these are just the same habits they've had the first 4 rounds. But watching it on TV, the first 4 rounds, you don't sort of see the things I got to see last night. I was disappointed with some moments in games where I didn't think the effort was there. But that could have been the same as what's been happening the first 4 weeks. But I wasn't watching. I wasn't live at the game. And I don't know. I'm not sure if when I'll come to Leichhardt and I'll see a Cronulla game. You'll see when I watch the game live, I'm not well. I watch the game differently. I don't watch it as a fan. I'm watching all the little things that are happening. Like Troy, who I live with at the moment, he hated sitting with me at the game last night because I'm telling him exactly what's about to happen, and it'll happen because you're sort of sitting there as if you're coaching and you're sort of trying to idea. So, yeah, that's hard for me to sort of make that judgment because it's unfair because I didn't watch the first 4 rounds, but we're a much better football side, Rob, I'll tell you that. But again, we missed Luai last night, whether we understand it or not. We missed him so bad in and around I think our team accountability and our competitiveness last night. I would have loved to have seen what the result would have looked like if he played. And I'm going to call them idiots. If you're an idiot out there that doesn't understand Luai's influence in our team, you're just an idiot. So I apologise for that, for you being an idiot. But yeah, he's so important to us. And if you don't understand that, just watch those moments last night when things were not going right. You know, watch next week when he plays, when something goes against us or we make an error or it's their scrum, watch his energy, watch his talk, watch how he holds everybody accountable. And I watched for that last night. We didn't have that.
Well, personally, Adele, I feel now what makes me happy is I feel now whoever we play, maybe with the exception of 1 or 2 teams, but whoever we play, we're a chance of winning a game. You know, we're complaining
Absolutely.
about games we lost to Newcastle and New Zealand and we should have won them. Well, if we should have won them, you're talking about teams that made the 8 last year or were on the fringe of the 8. So I think it's really positive signs for us. And I've always been quite negative of the club and the team the last few years and what have you. And I felt like the club was trying to sell us a crap story, like that things have turned the corner. It's a new era, all this sort of crap. I really feel the tide's turned. Like it might not necessarily mean we finish too much higher. I think we will finish a lot higher. I don't think we're a bottom 4 team. I really think we can win 3 in a row, Adele, and get our teeth into thinking about finals. I'd like to think that, because if you're not thinking about finals, what are we watching for, man? Let's just go watch the netball. The netball season just started, you know. So I still got some hope. I think we've got enough quality there. So I just sort of, you know, I'm begging West Tigers fans to just hang in there till you can't hang in there, because we've got a good team and they're ripping in and everyone's ripping in. It's not just the players, it's the coaches, it's everyone in Concord. Like it's just I've got a good vibe about it. I'm loving this. I'm loving that we're competitive, and again, people are going to think I'm just losing it because of this scoreline last night, but it wasn't as bad as it looked. There's plenty of positives, and you just look at so many young guys like Suka debuting, Luke a handful of games, 6 or 7 others there that haven't played 30 games of first grade yet. And, you know, Richo said, like when he introduced the Pepper sponsors, you know, a few months ago, there was Benji and the sponsors and whoever there, and they're all talking. Richo's identified who's coming through, who's going to take certain positions. And he said that we're going to add to this next year. I think we're on the up, mate. I really do. And we've been down the bottom for too long.
I don't. Yeah, we'll talk about, I guess, all that other stuff at other times throughout the year. But I'll finish with this, Rob. I think if someone asked what change would you make, I was watching the Sunday Footy show this morning. I'll tell you what I'd do. I'd go out and hire Hazem El Masri for the rest of the year to come in 1 day a week and work with our goal kickers.
Why? Okay,
that's what I do.
We were something like 88% in goal kicks prior to this week. Why now? Like I think Adam's barely missed a kick all year till last night, and Appy kicked all his kicks last week. Talon nailed one of the hardest kicks I've ever seen. Like, why goal kicking? Like, well, that's only one aspect.
But as we learned last night, it's so important that the detail and the practice that goes with it. You need to make sure there's accountability on that. And I don't know if there is, like, you know, for all we know, they are doing it. They have got a goal kicking coach, but from my, I mean, it's probably Brett Hodgson. I'm guessing Brett Hodgson is doing all the goal kicking and working with the boys. Like, that's my presumption. But I've always said it. Like, I've never understood how clubs have, you know, people used to always hire Daryl Halligan. Why wouldn't you go? I know for a fact Hasman's never, but not even the Bulldogs have used him. I thought to myself, why wouldn't you go get someone like that? Like, you can't lose. Just go get him once a week. Come in, work with the boys. You know, then what's it going to hurt us? We hired Greg Inglis to be a specialist coach to help Jareem Buller, and he's now assistant coach for NRLW. Like, took my spot, by the way. How good's that? I've been replaced by Greg Inglis. Same sort of ability, eh, Rob?
Hey, just a fun fact, mate. Do you know who coached Hazem El Masri to kick and why?
No.
Daryl Halligan, because he was injured.
Oh, yeah, I knew that. I thought you were about to lead into something to do with yourself or something.
No, mate. My
No, I
only
knew it was Daryl Halligan. Yeah.
my claim to fame the last few years, mate, has been at the dinner table, not much else.
No, that's all good.
All right, mate. Any final words before we say goodnight and look forward to next week?
No, look forward to Sunday afternoon at Newcastle. Hopefully the boys can come through, and I'm counting down the days till Sunday at Leichhardt Oval against the Sharks.
Well, mate, I think it's our third must-win game, and we've lost our first two must-win games, in my opinion. So hopefully it's third time lucky this week. I think if we get back to 3-3 with Parramatta and Cronulla coming up, I think we're in pretty good shape to finally, launch our season.
Agree.
All right, mate. Good night, and we'll catch up through the week. You there, Josh?
Thanks for listening to another episode of the West Tigers Life podcast. You can join us every Wednesday night live at 8:30 p.m. from the Orange Grove Hotel. A big thank you to Orange Grove Hotel for their support, as well as iChoice Home Loans. If you want to hear more from the West Tigers Life podcast, go to westtigers.com.au. That'll be our link tree, and you'll find links to all our social media, and you can sign up at our Patreon at patreon.com/WestLife. Join us next time on West Tigers Life.